Dark, I see. I don't know if anybody's around, but I'm coming online for just a little bit to rant a little bit. It's been one of those days. As you well know, I had a live schedule for noon. I didn't make it, obviously. I was stuck with a Costa Rican mechanic working on the car. It was supposed to take 15 minutes. We ended up being there 4 hours. I got stuck there with nobody. So what's everybody doing tonight? I was going to talk about crafting a little bit because I ended up getting a falling down a hole. One of the things that I do sometimes when I'm online, one of the most crazy time waster things besides YouTube, I'm looking at YouTube videos, is every now and then I will, what's better? I'll go on Facebook and I'll be looking at Facebook and a pile of videos will pop up. There's a guy that I love that does, hey, yeah, small town Jewel, I'm fine. I'm just bored. It's raining. I missed streaming today. I'm actually feeling better now. I got a couple of crazy tales to tell you guys. But mostly I was looking at like crafting videos on Facebook. And what happens is Facebook will seduce me in with one, and then they'll just play one after another. And they started out good. They started with Hexian, which is an artist. I love his dolls. I'm very glad to be feeling better. I love his dolls, and I've got a crazy story about that. He takes dolls and turns them into the most incredible looking things you've ever seen. Man. No, not today. I had a crazy tale about that. Had to do with my blood pressure thing. Here in Costa Rica, you can go to the private clinics where I go most of the time. And since I've been sick all week, it's been some kind of flu my husband gave me. I've been using this thing, my pulse ox, a lot. My oxygen levels have been hideous every afternoon, which is not good. Like I said, I have this happen every year around September, August in the States. I don't know why I'm having it here for August, September, but I am. Hey, small town Jewel. I wanted to have one of my scammer men. I wish I did, but unfortunately, YouTube has been squashing them too quickly for me to actually talk to any of them. And so while my oxygen levels were tanking earlier this week, I would go and check my blood pressure like I always do, like twice a day. My blood pressure, let me see if I can get back to it. I got to show you guys this because you won't believe it when I show you the reading. If I can get back to it. Where are we? Oh, where are we? And so every day when my oxygen levels would tank, it would go up. Not to insane levels, but it would definitely go up. Okay, here's a reading from yesterday afternoon when I started freaking out. You probably can't see it. 218 over 145. Yes. Yahtzee. I freaked out. Well, I didn't go to the doctor. I started throwing everything under the sun in my travel bag because when your levels are that high, what are you going to do? You're going to go to the doctor and they're going to say stroke, hospital, or no stroke, too high a blood pressure, hospital now. So, so I was like freaking out yesterday when this came about. And I didn't freak out earlier in the week because it was like 145 over 80 when I was having high blood pressure. But suddenly I had crazy blood pressure. So last night I'm running around, I'm tossing everything in this bag, I'm trying to get ready to go, I'm freaking out, I'm crying, I'm like, oh my God, again. Well, guess what? These things have a 2 or 3 year lifespan. I've had it that long. So basically, I found out today when I went to my doctor's office and we compared readings and I had my readings done and stuff. these things aren't invincible. And you got maybe 2 good years is what they're telling me. And when it starts going, you start getting crazy readings that make no sense. It did scare the crap out of me, Cheryl. And the thing is, I'm pretty inflammable with my blood pressure. When it's the other night, it was like 145. And like I said, my oxygen levels had tanked to like 85 or 86. So it was like lay down, get up when everything is normal again, which is what I did. But my point is, if you have something like this, and I make sure every year I calibrate this with the clinic. I just did not know that the lifespan of these things is maybe 2 to 3 years, they said. So clearly this one is starting to malfunction like crazy. So, oh yeah, she's running around. She's being crazy. This one's actually pretty easy. It works well. You just stick this one. I like this one. They say that this one is the most likely to be not accurate, and I will say just be about 10 higher, like 10 points higher than does at the clinic. You put it on, you press start. It will tell you that you have to raise or lower your arm, and you raise or lower your arm to write about that, and it inflates. You hear it. You get to watch the numbers spin. I don't know if I'm going to get a good reading or a bad reading, but I won't freak out if it's a bad reading because now I know this thing is starting to go haywire. And these are really cheap. These are cheap and easy to use. I guess they're not meant to last forever. Look at her running around. I wish I had that kind of energy. But she does that at nighttime sometimes. So still climbing, still climbing, still climbing. Not great, but still pretty normal. I'm within normal ranges now. So it spits it out. The nice thing is the memory, it keeps like 100 different readings that you've done. Cheryl, I didn't either. I love this one because this is easy, quick, and you can get an accurate reading and go on your little way. Like I said, 132, I know it means 122 in reality because that's the one at the clinic is going to say 122. So I don't pay much of time for that. Yeah, I like the small ones. They're only like $25. They fit on your wrist. They're easy to use. When you start moving to the arm and all that, it could be a pain in the ass. I've gotten weird readings. So anyway, that was my evening yesterday. It was sort of like about 5 o'clock on. I was running around going, hum. It goes, I thought, oh my God, I'm dying. I'm having another stroke. And it turns out the stupid thing was just at the end of life. And it was starting to give me crazy readings. And I had crazy readings all week, but not that crazy. So there's that. So I was just looking at the crafter people on Facebook. Like I said, I started with Hexium. Here's where it got funny. When we started moving to the 5-minute crafts, I don't know if any of you ever look at 5-minute crafts. I would do sometimes, and sometimes the way I'm going, oh no. One of the things they had under 5-minute crafts, easy 5-minute crafts, I laughed because it was how to make a paperweight with a real flower inside using, the plastic, you mix and you pour and all that. It's like, that is not 5 minutes. By the end, they had cured it, and then they ground it and polished it, the whole 9 yards. And then I straight into 5-minute crafts made in Costa Rica, which I really laughed because it was how to recycle wine bottles. And the guy had a wine bottle. He had a little printed out holy picture of Jesus and Mary and baby Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. He glued that on the bottle. He shellacked it. He made fake snow by tearing up paper and mixing it with water and other things. So he put fake snow all over the outside of the bottle, and he glued plastic pine with snow on it all over. And that was his idea of remodeling, recycling it. Yeah, I'd like to see real 5-minute crafts that you could do something in a hurry that turns out nice. So many of the times I've seen these things, it's been like Go to the Dollar Tree, grab X, Y, and Z. And there's nothing wrong with the Dollar Tree. It's on my list of places to see when I go back to the States this week. 5 hours instead of 5 minutes? Oh, yeah. That is exactly right. 5 minutes, 5 hours instead of 5 minutes. Particularly when you have to start mixing plastic and doing stuff. I had to laugh recently. I asked a Costa Rican lady I ran into at, well, I didn't run into her. I went into her store to talk to her about making copies. And I asked her, she started talking about having gone to the U.S. And I said, what's your favorite store there? She started shopping and she said, the Dollar Tree. And I just about fell on the floor. I said, I love the Dollar Tree too. And sometimes you can get some really great craft supplies there. That's what I wanted to say. If you need stuff like the little popsicle sticks and stuff, and I've seen some cute things done with those. But I'm talking about one time they had sugar and spice yarn there for $1 a skein. I've seen oil paints and that sort of thing when they get towards the end of life. And I bought all kinds of crazy good crafting stuff there, as well as the crazy stupid stuff. I've seen them, but always seems to take the 5 hours. Yeah, it does. It does for some things. So, anybody has any good crafting channels they follow with the real 5-minute stuff you can do that doesn't look like you threw together everything from a Dollar Tree? Let me know. Be sure and put that in there. I wanted to talk a little bit today also about, have you been watching what's going on with, of course, our favorite person? Apparently, she violated her non-disclosure agreement by talking about her settlement today with Tati Westbrook, and I'm waiting to see what happens then. Started thinking about glue, and I thought about that with her. So I saw that, and I kind of laughed. It's like, can you just shut up? Please shut up. I'm afraid she's going to go, pay a huge fine at this rate or go to jail. Because it's just getting ridiculous, some of the stuff that she's saying and doing. And I was ranting yesterday about her attorney getting contact. Now she's saying she has 4 different attorneys. There must be 4 guys at that particular legal group. So I've been really out of the loop. I spent all day running around. Yeah, she was going on about having to pay pay over $100 for the Duggar documents. Which Duggar documents did she pull? Cheryl, I think it's some kind of derangement syndrome going on with her and talking, because she literally can't shut up about her lawsuits and things and can't shut up about any of this. And what did she buy of the Duggar documents today? She's getting rid of 2 of the 4 lawyers. Duggar documents. Okay. I want to talk about the Duggars. I was going to do that tomorrow, but I may go ahead and do that now. It used to be, in the good old days, you could go to FlightAware and look up what the Duggar planes were doing, because I think at the time they had 2. I don't know how many they have now. But they had 2 planes. You could look on FlightAware. They would show you what the flight plans that had been filed for the Duggar planes, where they were going. You could look and see where they had gone, even if they hadn't filed a flight plane. Any of that was perfectly fine and legal to look up. Most people that follow the Duggars to an excessive detail would do those things. What happened is when people started really gossiping about what was going on with the Duggars went private on everything, including FlightAware, which I'm kind of sad they did, because it was fascinating to watch where they were going in their planes. And I was always concerned, and I'm still concerned about this. I don't know how much you know about having a small plane, but the more I started to read about it, the more fascinating it is. I didn't realize you have to pull out various parts of the plane and rebuild them after so many flight hours. It's just like clockwork. You got to do all these things. Now, I knew from having friends that flew that there was There's quite a bit involved with it. Said he was offered a plea deal to serve 10 years and he declined. Uh, huh, huh. She did a 2.5 hour live and she said he was offered a deal. Okay, Josh. I was thinking about Josh and her and the whole 9 yards earlier, but let me finish my little plane story. So anyway, if you have a private plane, it's not just owning the plane that's the problem. You got to take that thing apart. You got to do all kinds of maintenance. You have to do special inspections. You have to, if you're flying it, you have to recertify every so often. You have to get a physical every now and then. It's actually really involved. There's a lot of cost and there's a lot of cost and there's a lot involved with it. So it's not as easy as saying, hey, I'm going to get a pilot's license. And some types of planes you don't even really need to get a, quote, pilot's license for. I was reading earlier today about ultralight planes because I ran across this book about people surviving plane crashes. I got to say, I'm kind of interested in that. So I read this book on that, on how to survive a plane crash, and they were talking about ultralights in it in the one part of the book that I went through today. And did you know ultralights aren't even considered airplanes? You don't even need to have a pilot's license to fly one. They're not covered with this many strict rules and regs that even having a small plane is. And if you have a small plane, you're still not covered by all the same rules that somebody with a small plane who is flying back and forth and ferrying people around for money is. They have much stricter rules. So I'm wondering where the Duggars fit in all that because of the fact, I know they do ferry people around. I don't know if they charge for it. John David, is that his name? It's the one that we used to laugh at and say he seemed like he was kind of maybe not all there. He is the one that flies, and he has to be relatively intelligent to do that. I have no idea what his license is, whether he's rated to fly with instruments only, or he can, fly with instruments or fly only by sight. That's all pretty mysterious. That's one of the things that's interesting to me about the Duggars is they do hide a lot of that stuff now that they never did before. And I have to think it's a consequence of having Katie Joy picking apart everything they do. I don't doubt that they're trying to get Josh to plead. I don't doubt that at all. I was expecting them to make an offer to him. I was expecting his attorneys to reach out to the feds and say, hey, can we talk about this? Can we come up with I had heard early on that he was going to claim that his parents had not done what they were supposed to and taught him about sex and everything else, and they spun from there. So it's their fault, so he deserves a break. We know that he is trying all kinds of underhanded things to get out of this. Small Town Jewel, I'm sure there is. I don't think the baits are quite as sophisticated as the Duggars in some way, or quite as hidden. So that might be a good question. I would be curious how they own their planes, what names they gave them and stuff, because the Duggars was Duggar Aviation. You could go to flightaware.com and look it up. You could do the same with the baits, I'm sure, or pretty much anybody with you see that? The power flickered. It's been raining hard. You could look that up. You could look the baits up. You should be able to look up just about everything about their planes and the age of them, because that is one thing that does concern me also about the Duggars. I mean, look at what happened with Gwen Chamblin. That plane that her husband was flying was rather old, and he wasn't rated to fly that little jet, apparently, from what I was reading. And that's one thing I've got to say about this book I was reading about surviving plane crashes. If the NTSB can blame something on pilot error, they will every single time. Most of the time they rate these accidents happen because of pilot error, not because of the fact that there's wind shear or whatever. They'll say inappropriate pilot action to weather event or whatever. And I keep hearing, I don't know if they've released the report yet. Usually it takes 2 or 3 months at least for them to release a report. But I'm hearing that they're probably going to call this pilot error because he hadn't kept it current with his physical and maybe even his training. And the plane was so old, the jet that he was flying. Multiple Bates have planes. How many Bates have planes? How many Bates? Do you know? Because I don't really follow the Bates anymore. I used to watch the Bates a little bit when they were first part of the Duggars world and the little girls would come out, especially Erin Bates. I thought Erin Bates was just absolutely gorgeous. Come out with the almost like the Gibson girl hair, the big puff with all the spit curls and things. And they would have on those beautiful prairie dresses, just incredibly beautiful. Not very practical, not very fitting in, but they were some gorgeous little girls. And the way they dressed was definitely cuts above what the Duggars were doing. Now, the way the Duggars used to dress at the beginning with the jumpers and the wide collar white blouses was very popular where I went to church at. Lawson, is it Lawson or Nathan that does the medical rescue thing? Because that might be it might be listed that way too. Because see, that's where the challenge is going to come into if you wanted to look and see what their planes were doing. You would have to know exactly the name of the organization they're running their planes under, and I'm sure they're doing it under an organization because it's a lot cheaper that way, I think, than it is for an individual. I mean, more accepted. You could write more things off. Erin is unbelievable to see it. Hey, Tracy. I'm just rattling on about all kinds of stuff tonight, Tracy. I'm talking about the Duggars. I was thinking about Josh and our friend without a box of Kleenex earlier today because I ran around till almost 4 o'clock doing errands that were supposed to take an hour and a half. Ended up taking, let's see, we left around 10 to 4. That's 6 hours. An hour and a half's worth of errands ran in 6 hours. So I'm kind of beat when I was done with that. So I sat down in my rocking chair in the living room to eat lunch and flipped on the old boob tube, and Universal TV, which is the same thing as USA TV in the States, runs back-to-back Law and Order SVU every time you turn around. And it was interesting because it was an episode that I had not seen, which those are rare and few and far between, where these lunatics were trying to claim that there was a sex dungeon full of sex slaves under a Chinese restaurant. And they showed up threatening the Chinese restaurant and this congressman, and it became very convoluted. Even though it started with a crazy conspiracy theory, it led to an actual ring of these predators like Josh Duggar. It led to one of those guys. And all the people who were ordering up girls like ordering up Chinese food. And I swear I had to laugh because so much of it was lying, secrets, jumping to conclusions. And the main culprit was a guy on the internet that was writing these ludicrous clickbaity articles that ended up getting a congressman killed. I watched that and thought, I am reminded of everything that is going on with the Duggars and with her coverage of them and the breathless clickbaity things. I think that can lead to some horrible places. That may be why her lawyer's getting harassed right now. Somebody pointed out earlier that it's very likely that her own fans are doing this in an attempt to prove that she's being stalked. So there's that. I don't know if it goes to that level, but it's been suggested. It has been suggested. Hey, mermaid. So there's that. Someday on here, could you show how... Oh, my beautiful tapestry. It's very simply hung up. It is hung up on a piece of bamboo, okay? A piece of bamboo I cut out of someone's yard, I dried it out, and I just sewed bias tape on it, and it's hung. I'll show you sometime because it's not so difficult. So there's that. So back to the Duggars. So I was thinking about that a lot because a rather big deal was made this week about our lovely Ginger Volo Duggar getting baptized at Grace Community Church in Los Angeles. And someone started talking about how Grace Community was hardcore. Man, you can tell my brain's going. Calvinist. And it's not. It's really not. How do I know this? Because the church that I was affiliated with in Virginia was part of the Grace Presbytery with all the Grace churches in it. So we were kind of loosely connected to John MacArthur and Grace Community Church in Los Angeles. Our pastor was working on his PhD, and he would fly out to Los Angeles on a very regular basis in order to attend classes and attend John MacArthur's church, Grace Community Church. So I was exposed to a lot of their theology during my years at Quiverful, and while they're not overtly Quiverful, they do embrace that. MacArthur is the same guy that was being a jerk about shutting down when Los Angeles ordered all churches to do remote everything. And he refused. He kept having fights with the city of Los Angeles, the county, where they tried to shut him down and hit him with fines because he refused to close down. So that's the same church. I'll have to take it down, Small Hand Jewel, and show it the next time I do a video and show you how it's made, because that's the most simplistic. It's hung up very simplistic. Every so often, on that, I think I did them uneven. I just did the bias loops. So back to this church. It's a standard evangelical church. They embrace some things. They don't embrace other things. They don't preach it. It's just King James only. Every evangelical church I've seen in the Grace Presbytery has different things. Like I said, our church was involved pretty heavily with Bethel and with Randy Clark. I forgot what he calls his church, but his big thing was global outreach. So there was that going on. So many churches turn super spreaders. They can't believe simple science. I know they can't. They don't believe that any of that is contagious. They think that they're protected. And I wish it was that simple. I wish it was just as simple as believing in Jesus, and then we would all have protection against the beer virus. But unfortunately, science has shown that's not quite how it works at all. No matter how and what it is, the Kleenex makes it appear horrible. The Duggars girls' decisions every single time. Every single time. She got into a tabloid today for saying that talking about Amy Duggar King. She's Amy King. Well, she's Amy Duggar King. And the thing the tabloids don't understand is Amy is Duggar adjacent. Amy is not hardcore believing like the Duggars at all. So like, Amy's wearing a sleeveless shirt. Well, I'm sure Amy has worn sleeveless shirts before because she was not part of the Duggars thing. And it's like the shirt I'm wearing right now. It's not too low. My bra doesn't show. My arms are shown. I couldn't wear this shirt at the old church I went to, which is part of the Grace Presbytery, because it's way too revealing. You might get away with a pair of pants there, but you would have to have, your neckline would have to go way higher, and you'd have to have sleeves. Some bra strap might fall out, and a dear brother might be lured into lust, and everybody might have to shout Nike like the Duggars and stare at their toes. Our church has canceled all events due to the virus. That is, that, that's pretty responsible, I think. Tracy, go to bed. If you're really sleepy, because I am normally not as wide awake as I am now at 11. So I'm going to go myself for too long. But I wanted to come here and rant about that. I want to rant about Costa Rica a little bit too. Today we were out running our errands and experiencing the best of Tico Time. I finally did pick up my computer. It's on the bed behind me. 3 weeks at the repair shop for a job that should have taken them a day. So that's Tico Time, and you can't really, I was talking to Tico earlier about this very thing, you can't really rush them. They just work in their own time. We went to the shop to have a 15-minute repair done on our car that morphed into like 3 or 4 hours. You cannot hurry somebody along in this culture. This culture, they will just do what they are going to do in their time. And if you start saying, hey, we're done here, we're going to hurry up, just come across as an ugly American. So I kept my mouth shut today. I kept my Kindle in my hand. I just read and waited it out. So we got to experience some crazy stuff. We went to pay our water bill. You remember I told you my water was all messed up and they had to dig stuff up and figure out where the water leak was, and they had almost $600 water bill. Well, they finally reduced some of it. They finally knocked the majority of the next month's bill down to almost nothing. So we went this morning to pay it, and here's where it gets comical. You pull in front of the Assorted, because the Assorted is here where you pay your water bill. Each little town has their own Assorted, their own water company. And it's not like a money-making scheme. It's more of something like a cooperative where we all own part of it, the Assorted, the way it's run, for the benefit of everybody. It's the same thing with the electric. Our electric here is through a cooperative. So we do things that way here. So we pulled up in front of the Assorted today, and the guys that came and dug up our yard and figured out where the leaks were there, it's like, oh, hola. They showed us the big close sign. Why would the Assorted be closed on a Friday? I kept asking, said, ladrones. They got robbed. Somebody broke in there and robbed them. And as small and peaceful of a place as this is mostly, the petty thievery, I think they broke in and took the stuff. They didn't confront anybody. So I got kind of a little giggle out of that because they had to shut down for the day and I guess have the police and do whatever they were going to do, figure out what was gone. And so we just thought that was a little strange, just laughed and went on our merry way, and we'll go tomorrow and pay. Yeah, go tomorrow and pay. Sweet dreams, Tracy. Your diabetic Siamese, oh my goodness. Yeah, Lisa, I went on because it's a Friday night, it's raining hard here. I just wanted to rant about the Duggars and Costa Rica and just various things, including, without a box of Kleenex, just a hair. So they just sent us off and we'll go pay it later. That's another Tico Time thing. I don't know why they would have to shut down when they were doing that, because it was late enough in the day where they should have already had the police out and done everything. But it's Tico Time. And like I said, my 90-minute errands quickly span into 6 hours. I love the slow pace of life here most of the time, except when I'm trying to get something done, particularly when I have a whole long laundry list. We got everything done with the exception of paying the water bill. That we're going to have to go back tomorrow, I think, and see if the Assorted is reopened after their ladron experience. I hope they didn't get much. I can't imagine they would keep much out that would be worth stealing there. I'm sure they have a safe. It's 1:15 a.m. here, small town Jewel. That is late. That is really late. It's usually when I end up in bed eventually. So I'm running out of stuff to talk about tonight, but I had really wanted to talk about that Costa Rica thing because I just couldn't get over that, how certain things spin out into long periods of time. I will say this, if you're dealing with a company or something that is used to Americans, they usually are pretty good about their time management skills, but not everybody. Like example would be we switched internet providers. That's the only reason I'm able to come on here and talk to you guys anymore. And they're a whole lot better. And they're used to Americans. We've had them out here 3-4 times just to tweak and fine tune this thing, like to reroute the cables when they ran them across my baseboards, and to come out and put some NFL package on for my husband, show me where CBS Miami is on, because now I have American TV again. Not all the channels, but a few. So I'm getting to see some American news finally again. You live in the same area as the Bates. Ah! Maybe she did rebel by getting baptized. I will tell you this, that the churches in the Grace Presbytery believe in adult baptism. I got rebaptized as an adult. My father was quite offended. He was like, you were baptized as a child? I don't understand why you're getting rebaptized. It's like, yeah, they're pushing me to do it, so we're going to go with it. We're going to do it. I used to host baptism in our swimming pool back in the States, and it was an experience never to be repeated. I did it for like 4 or 5 years, and finally I told the pastor, I am not doing this anymore. For me, it was a huge amount of work, a huge amount of food to make. Nobody would help. I'd have to stay and clean up afterwards for hours. Pick the wet towels off of everything. Everybody was screaming and running around the pool. They'd be splashing water. It was just awful. It was like the most unthankless task of all time. I'm glad you changed it, because you don't freeze up. I know. Small town Jewel, I can actually come online now. Don't freeze up near as much. Before, I was dealing with a company called Issei here, and they only have copper wire because they're old. They were the first internet provider around here, so they've never upgraded anything from the 90s, apparently. This company came in like 6 months ago. I watched them lay fiber optics in my neighborhood, so I figured as soon as somebody dropped off the program and I could get a slot, because they only had so many slots per street, I was getting them. Because one of the things that Issei did that I didn't like is they dropped all the Miami channels. I'm not going to watch Dr. Phil every day or Judge Judy, but there are times when, like, the asthma hits, and I am just breathless and without a brain cell to spare, where I'm going to sit in that rocking chair and I'm going to sit there and crochet, and I don't give a rat's patoot if it's Dr. Phil, Law and Order, whatever, something in English that's somewhat appealing to me. So when they took all of the Miami stations away, it was like, no, I am not liking this at all. That's when we started talking about switching. Judge Judy is the boss, Brittany. My daughter loves her. Sometimes we say, did you see that Judge Judy the other day? Sometimes we do that. Have you tried Discovery Plus? No, I have not. I have not just tried that here. I know it's available here just like Disney Plus is, but I haven't tried it. I do have Netflix and Hulu, so there's that, but I have to turn on the VPN so I look like I'm in the States to make that happen. And then I have like 550 trillion other channels that my neighbor put on for me. So there's that in the Fire Stick. He it's got a lot of different things on that I don't think that you pay for. And I have to laugh that at my cabina, I need to put a Fire Stick out there. I need to break down and buy one and put it out there, because the only TV you can get is this very old, I have a very old Roku out there, and it has these Roku stations, only 1 or 2 you can get, and it doesn't run through the VPN, so you cannot access Hulu or the other things through there at all. Netflix, none of that. So you get this one really old these 2 really old channels where you can look at Forensic Files and Jerry Springer, and that seems to be it. We have somebody coming to stay with us in October, and I have to tell him I don't have internet out there anymore. I took down the router. So that's going to mean you're not even able to get Jerry Springer and old forensic files out there. Wow. I'll have to take a look at that Small Town Jewel. All of those programs are good. I mean, when our house flooded and I had to go out there for a week, that was the week I made the discovery about it being all Jerry Springer or forensic files. I must have watched every single forensic files over the course of that week. And a few Jerry Springers. They had Jerry Springer so far back that Jerry was respectful and had respectful topics. Like I watched one on fire safety of all things. Nobody tried to pull their top off. Nobody tried to dance on the stripper pole. None of that, because it didn't even exist back then. Jerry would cover real things. And it's really sad that he had to go from legitimate subjects to, hey, I slept with my husband's brother and his father. That seems to be the big thing. Netflix. Most annoying thing is you have to wait a year for new seasons to come on. Yeah, Brittany, you are right about that. You were right about that. Yeah, he was Small Town Jewel. When he first started, I think it was like the late 80s, early 90s, he did regular shows, and he used to do shows, routine shows on this guy that weighed like 1,000 pounds. Jerry Springer got him help and got him to lose some weight and stuff. He followed that guy, and he was actually really sweet about it. So there was that. That was back before all the nonsense. So there's that. I'm uncomfortable with Dr. Phil because of everything I know about the Turnabout Ranch and some of the places that he sent these kids. I never thought the day would come that I would defend Danielle Bregoli in anything, but she has been really instrumental in exposing some of the crap that he's doing. I've gone back and looked at clips from the old show she did with, a couple of shows she did with Phil. And I feel nothing but sorry for that child. No child should be sent into that kind of situation. And now she's old enough to actually bust him for what he's doing. You go, Danielle. Call yourself bad baby, whatever you call yourself. Please keep exposing this guy, because he's done quite a bit of damage to families with this particular ranch and some of the other places that he sends people that are maybe not the best. Cheryl, I mostly did. Now I usually watch when he has Nigerian romance scammers, and he frequently has those on, where he brings ladies in my age group and yours on, and they say, I'm so in love with him, but I had to send him $10,000 because they seized his passport and all that. And Dr. Phil researches who these guys are, and he shows them who they are. I'm all about that. I'm actually kind of sad that I haven't had any recent Nigerian romance scammers, because if nothing else, they're fun. They're fun. Just to go ahead and feed them the biggest long lines of BS that you can come up with out of your mouth. If you can make them spend hours talking to you, you can stop them from talking to somebody else. The only thing I was really shocked about was last time I tried to take it in a weird direction. I asked him what he was wearing and if it was sexy, and he immediately went there with it. It was like, oh my God, you didn't even bother to attempt to pretend like this was just a romance. You went right there to, hey, I'm naked. And I was like, no, I don't want to hear that. Sounds like some of the 90-day people. Yeah. That's the 90-day people are pretty fascinating to watch. I haven't watched all of them, but I watched a little bit of the lady from Georgia who did hook up with a Nigerian. It started as a Nigerian romance scam and apparently turned into the real deal. I just don't get it. I don't get the attraction. I understand meeting somebody online and it seems like it's going well, but for God's sake, check that person out. At least look up their profiles. My neighbor did that. It was too late. It took a lot of her money. I've heard so many stories of that, of them taking all this money. Discovery Plus, you could watch everything season. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get that, and because some of the programs I have on Fire Stick are not exactly 100% legal, and they don't always have every season. They don't have every season, and they don't have everything. It was kind of funny. It was kind of funny seeing that. I just never been able to get into 90 Day Fiance. It's all about love after lockup here, and I'm getting up early tomorrow and watching. In fact, I should probably look now and see if it's there. So my husband and I are both awake. There's a new version. Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Thanks. Yeah, I'm feeling better, Rose. It's just now I'm like getting sleepy, and at first I wasn't. Yeah, I had was supposed to just run 90 minutes of errands today, and ended up running like we took 6 hours. So I was ranting about that earlier, about Costa Rican Tico Time is a real thing. It's a real thing here, and unfortunately, it can take a lot of time. And the thing I wanted to talk about a little bit with Tico Time is in Tamarindo, and I'm not in Tamarindo proper. I'm closer to Playa Grande than I am Tamarindo. A mile and a half from Grande, if I could fly. It's a 20-minute ride. You got to go around through every zillions of villages, because if I went straight to Playa Grande from here, I would run into a big swamp. So Tamarindo, everybody's saying on the Tamarindo list that the water in Tamarindo was contaminated in the last month, and everyone and mother has gotten horribly sick from their stomach. I appreciate the fact that you can drink the water here. It's actually pretty good. So I don't know what they did in Tamarindo, but I'm so glad I wasn't drinking any of the water there this month. You usually don't find that here. Now, if you go north of here to Nicaragua, you cannot drink the water at all. You will get sick. The water is not processed like it is here. They don't do the thing with the different water purification systems, and you can see it coming out of the tap. It's sometimes brown. You brush your teeth with that stuff. Ugh. So I brush my teeth with bottled water when I'm there. So there's that. So that's your Costa Rican minute for today. Tico Time is real. You know, you got to be patient with these people. You can't flip out because it's their culture. That's how they are. And the best you can do is bring a book and read. And now she's like, oh my goodness. She just tore up my suitcase and then did that. Okay. Yep. So I'm going to go ahead and go because it's getting late here. And I know I'm starting to ramble. And it's been a lot of rambling things tonight. But it was all stuff I really had been wanting to talk about mostly. Lisa, I know it does. I love Norfolk. I would go there in a heartbeat. When if we moved back to the States, it's one of the places that's high on my list. I really like that part of the world. I also like Charleston, and I know Norfolk is more reasonable than Charleston. Charleston is quite expensive. Yeah, she's zooming around. She's zoomy times. Most definitely jumping on the top of the closet, jumping on the top of my chair, beating up on my suitcases out because I panicked and packed after I thought I was having a stroke. Because the thing, yeah, Charleston does flood a lot. You are exactly right. It does. How's the flooding there, Lisa, in the Norfolk area? Does it flood? I haven't seen any. I don't recall in all the years I was going back and forth. Because where I was, I would jump in the car and it was like 2.5 hours down there to the ocean because I have to have an ocean. Just one of those people. So I have to be somewhere I can get near the water every now and then at least. Ocean view mostly. Yeah, there's that. Yeah, I've seen they started to clean up some of the areas that were problematic there too. The last time I was there. Okay, you guys, I'm gonna go to bed. I'm still cleaning up from Idaho. Brittany, I know that one of my daughters lived in Louisiana until Ida hit, and she abandoned everything and went back to Northern Virginia. She's selling her place, everything. She couldn't cope with hurricanes, and she had been raised as a small child there because she was from my very brief first marriage before I married my husband. Now we've been married for 35 years now. And so she couldn't handle it. She had to leave. And I was kind of wondering and worried about her about that. Because if you're not used to having to clean up from these hurricanes and bleach everything, it can be a pain in the you know where. And that's what got her. It's really low there. Yeah. Your basement flooded. Oh, I'm so sorry. I hope you get that cleaned out. Our house here is flooded twice. And the way the houses are constructed here, it's nothing like trying to deal with it in the States because it's concrete. You just sweep it out, you bleach everything, and you go on. Yeah, I'm going to rest well. I'm going to try to do tomorrow, maybe a book review. I'm not really sure. Ida was a real witch in the Philly area. I know it was Rose, and up in like upstate, not upstate New York, but New York too. I saw that everybody was getting hit with it. It was one of those crazy hurricanes. I hope we have no more hurricanes the rest of this hurricane season. I hope it just, everything peters out. I had to laugh because they had one named Mindy come through, a tropical storm. I have a friend named Mindy, and I had to PM her and say, they named a hurricane after you. So there is that. Okay, you guys, have a good evening. I'm going to go ahead on and go. I'm going to try to sleep. I don't know if I will or not. Be good.